Major moment for Ottawa's tech sector today as Nokia broke ground on a massive new research campus in Canada North. Leaders say the project will help shape the future of technology in this country and strengthen the country's role in a fast-moving digital world.
Nokia has just made a move that tells the whole story. When global tech giants look at North America today, the safest, smartest, and most forward-thinking place to build the future is no longer the United States. It's Canada. In a political moment defined by Trump-era tariffs, unpredictability, and trade fights on every front, Nokia has chosen Ottawa as the home of its next-generation research campus. And that single choice carries consequences far beyond a construction site. It signals a shift in where real innovation, real talent, and real strategic value are heading.
At Canada North, the country's largest technology park, Nokia broke ground on a massive new campus that will reshape Canada's tech landscape. The company is building a 750,000 square foot innovation center that will anchor its global work on AI-powered networks, cybersecurity infrastructure, smart city systems, clean energy grid integration, autonomous mobility, and the coming wave of 6G wireless technology. Executives emphasize that much of Canada's home internet backbone already runs on Nokia's technology, engineered in Ottawa, and the new campus will multiply that capability. The company confirmed that the site will house labs where Canadian researchers will develop the next generation of network intelligence and quantum-safe systems. More than 340 new high-skilled jobs will follow, with shovels in the ground within weeks and the doors opening by 2029. Federal and provincial governments are backing the vision. Under Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canada has committed $70 million to ensure that Nokia's 6G, cybersecurity, and sovereign AI work happens in Canada, not overseas. Officials highlighted that next-generation wireless technologies could add more than $200 billion to the national economy by 2040. But the deeper message is political. Canada wants to control the technology it relies on, and Nokia is becoming a cornerstone of that strategy. One line from the event captured the moment better than any press release. "This is what sovereign AI looks like: employing Canadians, building tech right here, and deploying it globally."
Nokia's expansion plays directly into Canada's push for sovereign AI, the ability to design, secure, and control the technology that underpins everything from emergency services to financial systems. This idea has moved from academic conversations to national policy under Carney. Canada wants its own AI infrastructure, not one shaped by foreign politics or unpredictable allies. While Canada builds, the United States is shrinking its talent pipeline. Trump's visa restrictions and aggressive trade maneuvers have made the country's tech ecosystem less attractive. AI researchers who once leaned toward Silicon Valley are now looking north, where the political climate is calmer, immigration pathways are straightforward, and research labs like Nokia's Ottawa campus are expanding rather than contracting. In this moment, Nokia's presence is proof that Canada is not waiting for the U.S. to regain stability. It is creating its own technological center of gravity.
Trump's trade agenda has destabilized supply chains across the U.S. technology sector. Tariffs on key components, threats of 100% duties, and constant uncertainty have created a business environment that global firms openly describe as unpredictable. Nokia is too diplomatic to say this publicly, but the dynamics are obvious. The United States is no longer the most efficient or reliable place to build large-scale telecom innovation. Canada, on the other hand, has become the trusted partner. That phrase, trusted partner, appeared multiple times during the groundbreaking event, and it wasn't accidental. In a geopolitical environment marked by tariffs, sanctions, trade wars, and diplomatic tension, reliability has become a strategic advantage. Carney's government is offering exactly that: predictability, long-term industrial strategy, and a stable policy environment where R&D can flourish. For Nokia, the contrast is stark. Canada is building an ecosystem that aligns with the company's vision for AI-driven networks and next-generation wireless. The U.S. is building trade barriers. The global race for 6G is not a theoretical contest. It is a multi-billion-dollar battle over who will control the architecture of the future internet. Countries like South Korea, Japan, and Finland are accelerating investments. China has already declared 6G a national priority. And now, with Nokia's decision, Canada has positioned itself inside this elite circle. The campus will serve as a North American hub for 6G prototyping, quantum-resistant encryption, and advanced spectrum research. Carney's industrial strategy, linking academia, federal labs, private firms, and immigration programs, is deliberately designed to give companies like Nokia an environment where long-term networks can be planned, tested, and scaled. By contrast, the United States is battling policy fragmentation. Spectrum planning disputes, supply chain tariffs, and political infighting have slowed its 5G build-out and clouded its 6G readiness. American carriers depend on imported equipment that is now tied up in tariff fights. Washington's focus has shifted from innovation leadership to trade retaliation, and the opportunity cost is piling up. Nokia choosing Canada is not an isolated event. It is a signal that global telecom leaders see where the real momentum is.
The deeper story behind this project is a shift in corporate calculus. Companies that manage critical infrastructure no longer rank the U.S. as the safest or most predictable partner. Canada has emerged as a stable, open, innovation-friendly jurisdiction with clear industrial planning and a globalist outlook. Nokia is responding to 4 key realities. Canada is politically stable. Canada welcomes global tech talent. Canada supports long-term research infrastructure. Canada is not weaponizing tariffs as a political tool. These factors combine into a powerful message. If you want to build the technologies that will run the 2030s and 2040s, Canada is the place to do it. Nokia's decision to expand in Ottawa is more than a corporate investment. It is a verdict on the direction of North American politics. Canada is acting like a nation that intends to lead the next technological era, while the United States, distracted by tariffs, trade wars, and domestic turmoil, is surrendering ground it once dominated. If Canada continues to secure projects like this, leverage its sovereign AI strategy, and position itself at the center of 6G development, the map of global innovation leadership will look very different by the next decade. The question now is simple. How many more Nokias will choose Canada next? And how long before Trump's America realizes it is losing the future it once claimed?
Canada is no longer bracing for Trump's tariff storms, it's preparing to outrun them. In its newest national budget, the Carney government makes one thing unmistakably clear: the era of relying on a single export market is over. And this shift is far more dramatic than many Canadians realized. What looked like a routine fiscal document has quietly become a blueprint for a reshaped place in the global economy.
In previous budgets, a normal budget normally contains anywhere from 2 to maybe 5 at the most references to international trade. In the budget earlier this week, there were over 18 references to trade. So that kind of gives you a sense of how trade-focused this particular budget was.
A senior Canadian trade expert recently highlighted an extraordinary detail inside the federal budget. While past budgets mentioned international trade only 2 to 5 times, this year's document includes more than 18 separate references. That spike shows the government isn't simply reacting to Trump's tariffs, but building an entirely new playbook for how Canada intends to grow. The expert described how Canadian companies spent the last year scrambling to protect themselves as Trump's second-term tariff agenda intensified. Right after the U.S. election, exporters rushed as much as 6 to 8 months of inventory into the United States before the new tariffs hit. That move gave them breathing room, but did not change the underlying problem. As months passed and tariffs remained locked in place, companies accepted a difficult truth: the old model is not coming back. They are now focusing on long-term adjustments, considering where their products should be manufactured, how supply chains should be redesigned, and which global markets can replace the United States as dependable buyers. Inside the budget, the most significant new tool is a strategic export office housed in Global Affairs Canada. The initiative is designed to help businesses break into non-US markets by cutting domestic red tape, navigating foreign rules, and coordinating federal support with trade teams already stationed overseas. For many firms that struggled for years with overseas regulations, legal costs, and market access barriers, this marks a major shift.
For decades, Canada built its economic identity on one pillar. The United States would always remain an open, stable, and reliable trading partner. Trump's second term shattered that assumption. His administration has rolled out sweeping tariffs across steel, aluminum, lumber, autos, and manufactured goods, with rates ranging from 10 to 100%, forcing Canadian policymakers to confront a harsher global landscape. The dramatic jump from a handful of trade measures to more than 18 shows that Ottawa now sees diversification not as an option, but a necessity. The new budget reads like a manual for a country preparing its economy for a multipolar world, where access to the U.S. market can no longer be taken for granted.
The experts' insights revealed how deeply Canadian exporters hoped Trump's tariff wave would fade as it did in 2018 and 2019. But this time, months passed and nothing changed. Many companies initially relied on temporary tactics, including adjusting internal prices to reduce tariff exposure. But these measures were never meant to last. As the situation dragged on, businesses accepted that long-term redesign is unavoidable. They began scouting new manufacturing locations, researching buyers in Asia and Europe, and preparing multilingual marketing and legal materials for entirely new regions. This transformation is expensive, slow, and administratively heavy, which is precisely why the government finally stepped in with structural support. The Strategic Export Office could become one of the most consequential trade reforms of this decade. Instead of leaving companies to navigate overseas barriers alone, the office will serve as a centralized command structure for Canada's export expansion. It will help firms clear Canadian administrative hurdles, coordinate federal departments, guide them through foreign regulatory requirements, assist with patent and intellectual property protections, and connect them directly with potential buyers through trade officials on the ground in foreign markets. For years, exporters complained that breaking into Asia or Europe required layers of expensive legal advice, translation work, compliance checks, and local contacts, all before a single sale could happen. This office is designed to eliminate those barriers and make diversification attainable even for medium-sized companies. Trump's second-term trade policy has moved far beyond traditional protectionism. Canada now faces 25% tariffs on most non-energy goods and 10% tariffs on energy exports, alongside new threats against the auto sector and broader use of national security tariff tools. These measures are not tied to long-term strategy, but to domestic politics, making them unpredictable and difficult to negotiate around. Even U.S. farmers and manufacturers, once seen as beneficiaries of Trump's agenda, are experiencing volatility as global buyers shift to more stable suppliers in South America and Asia. In this environment, Canada cannot afford to anchor its prosperity to a market that can change direction overnight. Carney's budget aligns with the broader foreign policy transformation Canada has been building all year. Ottawa is accelerating partnerships with Japan, South Korea, and ASEAN, building new clean energy and defense ties, and preparing for expanded trade opportunities with China following the APEC diplomatic reset. This diversification strategy is strengthened by Canada's growing role in critical minerals, lithium, copper, nickel, rare earths, which are becoming indispensable to global clean tech and EV supply chains. Domestically, the budget expands incentives for clean manufacturing in Ontario and Quebec, helping anchor new export sectors that can operate beyond North America. Taken together, these measures reflect a Canada that is no longer trying to pressure Washington or outmaneuver Trump. It is building alternatives. The domestic political debate around this budget has been intense.
Opposition parties have criticized the rising deficit but have struggled to challenge the underlying need for trade diversification. Export-focused industries, meanwhile, have quietly expressed relief that Ottawa is finally embracing a long-term strategy. This is the first budget in many years that acknowledges global reality rather than assuming stability from the United States. The government is signaling that Canada's prosperity must come from a wider geographic base, one that reduces dependence on a single, politically turbulent partner.
Canada has entered a new phase of its economic life. Instead of waiting for U.S. policy to stabilize, it is building its own path forward. The budget's 18 trade-focused measures reflect a government and a business community finally aligned in recognizing the long-term implications of Trump's tariff regime. The question now is not whether Canada should diversify, that debate is over, but whether it can move fast enough to secure new markets before the next round of U.S. tariffs reshapes the rules again. Canada has laid the groundwork. Companies are adapting. The political will is forming. But the transformation will require speed, coordination, and willingness to bet on a more global future. And so we end with this. Can Canada complete this pivot in time, or will the next wave of U.S. pressure arrive before the new strategy fully takes hold?
In the months since Trump was elected, much has changed for American healthcare workers.
Trump came into office, it was like everything turned just so vulgar and ugly.
The government of British Columbia, desperate for doctors and nurses, has targeted unhappy Americans with ads like this.
A quiet but shocking wave is reshaping North America's healthcare map. Hundreds of American doctors, nurses, and medical specialists are relocating to Canada, not for higher salaries, but for peace of mind and professional respect. Across the quiet hallways of Canadian hospitals, the sound of American accents has become surprisingly common. Many of these new voices belong to healthcare professionals who once called Los Angeles, Michigan, or Oregon home. Their journey north tells a larger story about how politics can shape not just economies or borders, but the very heartbeat of a profession built on care. Since Donald Trump's return to the White House in 2025, his government has promised to restore American strength by bringing back jobs, cutting social spending, and tightening immigration. But while factories and tariffs dominate headlines, another transformation is happening quietly, one involving the people who keep hospitals running. Across the border, Canada is welcoming them, and in doing so, it's turning Washington's political storm into its own national opportunity. This is not about statistics alone. It's about how two neighboring countries are now moving in opposite directions, one consumed by division and distrust, the other defined by inclusion and stability.
Inside the United States, the year 2025 has tested every corner of the labor market, but nowhere has the strain felt more personal than in healthcare. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, job growth across the country slowed sharply over the summer. In August, the U.S. added only around 22,000 jobs, far below expectations. The slowdown came as President Trump expanded his America First policies, broad tariffs on imports, tighter immigration, and a federal budget that reduced healthcare spending. The Guardian reported that the administration's budget proposal included more than $800 billion in cuts to Medicaid. Those decisions didn't just change numbers on a spreadsheet, they reshaped working lives. Across hospitals, hiring freezes began. Training budgets were reduced. Many professionals feared their positions could disappear as programs like diversity, equity, and inclusion were dismantled. Reuters noted that foreign-born workers, a vital part of the U.S. healthcare system, dropped by over 300,000 between 2024 and 2025. In practice, that means fewer nurses and doctors at the bedside, longer patient wait times, and rising burnout among those who remain. Meanwhile, the cost of imported medical equipment climbed as new tariffs hit global supply chains. Hospital systems facing higher costs cut shifts, merged departments, or postponed equipment upgrades. For healthcare workers, the message was unmistakable. The political war over trade and immigration had reached their workplace. Many felt the values of care and community, once central to their profession, were being replaced by fear,
uncertainty, and fatigue.
As the political temperature in the U.S. rose, another trend quietly gathered momentum. Healthcare workers started looking north. By mid-2025, the government of British Columbia had confirmed that more than 140 American-trained doctors, nurses, and nurse practitioners had accepted job offers in Canada. Provincial officials told CBC that the figure was expected to rise steadily in the coming months. What began as individual relocations soon turned into a coordinated migration. In hospitals across the Pacific Northwest, British Columbia launched an unusual recruitment drive. Food trucks rolled up to American hospitals offering free coffee and ice cream alongside information about open positions. The ads carried a simple promise: if you want to care for others in a place that cares about you, come to BC. That message resonated deeply. Within months, an online group called Canada Curious Healthcare Workers grew to over 1,200 members, mostly American doctors, nurses, and medical technicians exploring options to move north. Each story reflected the same concern. The U.S. no longer felt like a place where compassion and stability could thrive. For them, crossing the border was an act of preservation, both personal and professional.
While Washington hardened its stance on immigration and social programs, Ottawa saw an opening. Canada was facing its own healthcare shortages and moved quickly to turn America's unrest into a recruitment advantage. In early 2025, the federal government announced an investment of $14.3 million Canadian dollars to accelerate the accreditation of internationally educated health professionals. British Columbia took the lead, creating direct pathways for American workers to transfer credentials and fill critical hospital gaps. Beyond policy, Canada succeeded through culture. Where the U.S. saw politics, Canada offered gratitude. Newcomers described receiving thank you notes from residents before their first shift. Volunteer networks helped them settle, find housing, and adapt to local practices. The contrast grew sharper. In the United States, debates over budgets and vaccines dominated headlines. In Canada, the story centered on rebuilding trust in care itself. One country argued ideology, the other practiced empathy. For decades, North America's economic gravity pulled south. Now, talent flows north, a reversal born not of money, but of meaning. Canada has turned America's brain drain into its own quiet advantage by proving that stability and respect are powerful recruitment tools.
The result of this trans-border shift is a quiet irony. The same political doctrine meant to make America stronger is now helping Canada rebuild its most essential workforce. Trump's America promised resurgence through control over borders, industries, and spending. Yet in the pursuit of that control, the administration unintentionally loosened its grip on people. Skilled, compassionate professionals began voting with their feet. And each departure carries both a practical and moral cost. Every nurse or physician who chooses to leave is not just a worker lost. They are a reminder of what politics can do to the human spirit when fear replaces trust. Canada, by contrast, has chosen a different form of strength, one rooted in openness. Its healthcare recruitment drive may be pragmatic, but it also reflects a deeper national value: that care is not just a service, but a relationship between those who heal and the society that supports them. Across the border, the effects are visible. American hospitals continue to struggle with staff shortages, especially in rural areas. In British Columbia, new recruits from the United States fill emergency rooms, help expand rural clinics, and bring experience from one of the most advanced medical systems in the world. This is the true backfire of 2025. The United States, seeking independence through isolation, has exported one of its most precious assets, its caregivers. And Canada, quietly and methodically, has transformed that loss into a foundation for renewal. As one newly arrived nurse put it after her first shift in Canada, she finally felt she belonged somewhere that values what she does. That sentiment now echoes far beyond a single hospital corridor. It reflects a growing realization across North America. Leadership may command policies, but values decide where people choose to build their future. In that choice, Canada's message is clear: care will always attract care. And in the political crosswinds of 2025, that may be the most powerful policy of all.
We were going to talk about President Trump and a new wave of tariffs that he announced on Thursday, including a 100% levy on branded drug imports into the United States.
But starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries where they paid a small fraction of what for the same drug that what we pay many, many times more for.
In late September, Washington delivered another shock to the global economy. President Donald Trump announced a 100% tariff on imported branded pharmaceuticals, alongside new duties of 50% on bathroom and kitchen cabinets, 30% on upholstered furniture, and 25% on heavy trucks. The decision takes effect on October 1st. On the surface, it looks like a dramatic push to bring manufacturing back home. Yet the question is unavoidable. The United States imports over $230 billion worth of pharmaceutical drugs each year, according to 2024 trade data. Canada is a critical partner in the North American drug supply chain. So how will Ottawa respond when tariffs threaten that foundation?
The European pharmaceutical industry's representative body saying that tariffs on medicines would create the worst of all worlds.
The impact abroad was immediate. In Brussels, the European pharmaceutical industry described the measure as the worst possible outcome. Markets across Asia reacted in real time. One leading Japanese drug company saw its shares fall by more than 4% on the day of the announcement, while Australia's CSL collapsed to a 6-year low. The carve-out that exempts companies already breaking ground on American facilities only added to the uncertainty. Investors were left to guess which producers would qualify and which would face a wall of tariffs. The wider concern is not limited to drug companies. Heavy trucks move goods through supply chains, so a new 25% duty risks pushing costs into the daily products American families buy. Furniture and cabinet imports, still dominated by Asian producers, will now carry higher price tags. Trump framed the entire package as a national security measure, but the ripple effects spread far beyond the United States. Allies who once counted on predictable access to the American market now confront sudden barriers, and confidence in long-term planning is shaken.
In the more immediate lens, Carney says he spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump earlier this week in New York, that meeting coming around the same time Washington imposed tariffs on pharmaceutical goods.
We're engaged with the U.S. In ongoing discussions on some of those specific strategic areas. Those conversations are ongoing. I had a higher level conversation with the president a few days ago.
For Canada, the timing was critical. Prime Minister Mark Carney had just met Trump in New York days before the tariff order was unveiled. He confirmed that pharmaceuticals were part of those high-level discussions. Rather than react with anger, Ottawa moved to position itself for the broader challenge. The government launched consultations ahead of the 2026 review of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement. Businesses, lawmakers, and communities are now being asked to shape the agenda for the next phase of North American trade. The goal is to prevent disputes like the pharmaceutical shock from erupting on a case-by-case basis. At the same time, Canada is diversifying. Carney's trip to the United Kingdom and his signing of a free trade agreement with Indonesia show that Ottawa is building new links abroad. Yet the core strategy is to keep the American relationship within a structured framework. By strengthening CUSMA, Canada seeks to anchor its industries against unilateral tariff storms. Health Canada has been monitoring potential disruptions in pharmaceutical supply, while Canadian industry groups such as Innovative Medicines Canada and neighborhood pharmacies have warned about risks to patient access. This combination of domestic vigilance and diplomatic preparation abroad reflects a deliberate approach that balances immediate needs with long-term positioning. For ordinary Canadians, the message is clear. The country is not standing still. It is preparing for negotiations that will define jobs and investment for years to come. Trump's tariffs were designed to force others to bend. Instead, they have prompted allies to shield themselves, and in Canada's case, to prepare an organized defense. 100% duty on drugs may look like toughness in Washington, but it risks higher costs for American patients while partners adapt through planning and alliances. The European Union has drawn a line. Asia has seen share prices tumble, and Canada has turned the moment into a rallying call for the CUSMA review. The paradox is striking. The more Washington raises the stakes, the more its neighbors and allies search for stability elsewhere. Canada's counterplay shows that even a smaller partner can use trade structures to protect its interests. As October begins, the real question is not whether Trump can impose tariffs. It is whether those tariffs will leave America isolated while others learn to navigate around them.